Do you feel prepared to make your presentation now?
Sure.
All right.
Turn off ringers.
Okay, no troubles. We'll give you a minute just to get yourself organized there. Thank you for coming and speaking to us.
Welcome. Mayor and Council, pleasure, as usual. Provide you with my report, which would be for the period ending September 30th, 2018. We've seen one of our positions run vacant this past quarter, and I'm happy to report that that position's been filled by a gentleman out of the north. And I have been made aware of staffing's action to send another member out of our detachment back to New Brunswick, which has been a dream of his for about 11 years after being posted to the province of British Columbia. So his family and ours is happy for him to see that that result for him. I think that's going to go a long way to retaining a member as we move forward in the RCMP. At our latest Detachment Commanders Conference, I learned that our district office will be asking the province for an additional office for our provincial contingent in our detachment, as well as another one in the year after that. Two over the next 2 years. They will be asking. I have heard that the ask has happened years previous, and I see Councillor Flynn has a smile on his face at this point in time because we've made that ask before, but and been ranked near where we are, but the province claimed not to have any new money for policing.
Oh, well, thanks.
So that's a highlight on our end, that there will be the ask and that we are ranked quite highly for our provincial contingent within the detachment. They've recognized the need. They've done the statistics, and they've shown that we do require 2 more members over the next 2 years to meet the demand at this point in time, or to augment our provincial resources. With that, those things don't come about without the CSRD and the City of Salmon are making those requests, and I appreciate the support that I've had over the last 3 years, almost 4 now, with the support of council and the CSRD with respect to those resource allocations and the asks that we make from our detachment. It's not without the UBCM knowing that we need those resources that we get them. So appreciate that. Thank you very much. Our criminal code files that we attended were up in comparison to 2017 over our detachment area again. And again, we've seen property crime driving that trend. I looked at the graphs of our crime, and basically our trend goes up when property crime trend goes up because everything else stays low. And that's as a result of traveling criminals that come through, or our own homegrown criminals that remain active within our area. And once we put those persons in a position where they're not in the community or under strict conditions, we notice that our crime trends drop. And that is the case over the last, I'd have to go back because it's been 2 months since the quarter ended, but we watched those statistics drop as a result of 2 individuals that we'd incarcerated over a period of a month or shortly thereafter, which drove that property crime trend down. Our break and enters into residences as well as auto theft are just down slightly over the end of the last quarter. That isn't to say that they weren't up over the year before, but we've noticed that trend downward. And we responded to 2,250 calls for service. 61% of those were within the city of Salmon Arm, and 39% were in the rural area in this past quarter, which is a little bit of a change because we usually see an almost equal 70-30 split from quarter to quarter, but it was up slightly in the provincial area. And that we service. So that would be Blind Bay, through to Silver Creek, Ranchero, and then out to meet our brother detachment out in Sycamoose. Our calls for service were down over 10% in the same quarter, but our criminal code investigations were up. And when I say criminal code investigations, that would mean that those are the more serious files that we deal with. They are the most time consuming and they take up the most of our resources. So when I say that our calls for service are down about 10%, our time spent in the office trying to investigate these files, because our major criminal code files are up 300, tells me that my workload has gone up, not down, as a result of less files, but more serious ones. And a good example of that, I just sent out a press release this afternoon. We had an armed robbery and vehicle theft at an institution down on Alexander Street, where we ended up arresting 2 individuals after they stole a vehicle that was equipped with OnStar. OnStar allows us to track vehicles when they're criminals, especially when the vehicle is stolen, because we don't need a search warrant to track that vehicle anymore. They were arrested in the Vernon, North Okanagan area, taken into custody, and last I heard they were going forward for a bail hearing at Court Services, which is right down the hall from us. Those particular individuals are known to us, albeit they hadn't been active in that type of crime in quite some time, or ever in one case. So it was good to put them into custody and recover the property that was undamaged, as well as the evidence that we needed in order to make a case with our provincial court. On the legal front, we've seen information from the province, and we're well situated to apply the Provincial Cannabis Act, to my knowledge, in this period and in the quarter preceding it. We haven't written a ticket for possession of cannabis as of yet, but in consultation with our local businesses that were not licensed under the city bylaws, they had chosen to close their businesses for the period in which time that they're applying for legal licenses within the city of Salmon Arm to operate within the confines of our lovely community. I remain active with staff in reviewing the applications as they come forward, and I've been provided the opportunity to provide some comments, which is greatly appreciated. City council city staff appears to be applying all of the policies that council has put into place with very judiciously as they move forward, which is great to see, and it's led to some good conversations between myself and the staff here at City Hall. On another note, which is very important to the community, we had 43 collisions with injuries or damage to vehicles in excess of $1,000 within the quarter, and that again would be ending in September. We saw 59 in the quarter in 2017, so that shows a downward trend, and it has been trending slightly downward. And like I've always said, it's better to look at the numbers than it is the percentages in Salmon Arm, because our numbers are quite small. But it appears that trend is going in the right direction. And at this point in time, I have been speaking with ICBC representatives trying to obtain some crash data from different intersections and areas within my jurisdiction, and they haven't yet to get back to me because they're still crunching the numbers, but it appears that one intersection might be a bit of a surprise to me, because the sight lines are so good, and it's not within the city of Salmon Arm, it's actually in the rural area, that being out towards Blind Bay. We're looking there. I'm going to make a request of ICBC to have their engineers look at that intersection and trying to determine or help us understand why we might see a high frequency of collisions in a wide open highway with such good sight lines. But I don't know that they'll have an answer for that. We're going to try and see if we can't come up with a reason behind that, because they happen to be very horrific because they're at highway speed out there. We've been strategically targeting the driving, poor driving characteristics. Let's put it that way. Over the quarter, the members here at the detachment, and this is without numbers from Highway Patrol, have written 450 tickets or warnings, 32 high-risk driving charges, 22 impaired drivers were taken off the road, and we conducted 20 enforcement traffic blitzes within the community. So that would be to say that we've had more than one officer at a given location that have spent some time there in order to target either speed or intersection enforcement, seat belts, or distracted driving. The investigative highlights from the past quarter, we're putting those two property crime criminals back out of the community's circulation. We did so in concert with Air Services, our police dog services, and it turned out to be very successful. One actually trying to swim across the pond to get away, which didn't work out too well for him. But when you look at the partnership that we have with our Air Services and Police Dog Services, there happens to be a Southeast District joke at my expense that if you're going to come to Salmon Arm and do crime, watch out, Scotty will call in an airstrike. Because we called in aircraft for both of those. We did arrest one other property criminal known to us on, or we secured a warrant for him, sorry. And at this point in time, I hadn't got an update as to whether or not he'd been arrested, and he was known for property crime within the area as well. So we only look forward to finding him, and I think he's left our jurisdiction and is living in a neighboring one. So I give my guys a hall pass to go get him because he's basically going to cause crime for us here. In response to council and the Downtown Business Society, we've conducted 46 downtown patrols over the period, so that would have been through the summer season. And at one point, we recovered 3 stolen quads and a motorcycle that had been stolen, and gotten those back to their owners as well. And our regional highway patrol unit continues to park a vehicle at our office for transportation purposes, which garners some additional traffic support within the jurisdiction. It doesn't cost the city any money, other than maybe a few pieces of paper and a place to park a police car. But we do see some benefits there as well, getting a little bit creative as we move forward. So, I don't have my customary numbers that I would usually provide you with the crime stats. I will at a later date. I will caution that the traffic crash data looks different than the statistics that I use because we don't scrub them out. I look at the most serious collisions, those being over $1,000 or those having involved personal injury. And the data that I get supplied to me just does all of them. They could be a hit and run where a bumper gets scraped in a parking lot, right up to and including fatal collisions. So, and that would be my short presentation for council this evening.
Thank you very much, Staff Sergeant. Do councillors have any questions for our Staff Sergeant? Councillor Lindgren.
I do. Is it okay if I ask a question on a personal note?
Absolutely.
I'm curious what happens when you arrest somebody that's convicted of or suspected of criminal crimes. What happens to the things that you recover that were stolen? Where are they? I'm looking for a bicycle that was stolen out of my driveway.
When and if we recover those, and we can identify who they belong to, then we send them back to the owner, which I'll be quite honest with you is more important sometimes than actually being able to run a charge through council and securing a conviction, because the people that are harmed actually do get their property back, which is greatly satisfying.
Is there, bicycles aren't licensed or identified, so is there a place that they get stored so that people could go and look at them? It
depends, and no, you can't look at them.
Okay.
It would be one of those cases where if you've got a serial number or some descriptors, we'd be more than happy to try and try and locate that in our exhibits.
We'll come by.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace-Richmond.
Thanks, Your Worship, and through you to the Staff Sergeant. Thank you for the 46-foot patrols.
You're welcome.
I think we had a good summer downtown. I think we've seen some changes downtown as a result of the presence. Some changes I understand have not been explained and certainly are not as a result of any enforcement, meaning that the panhandling on Alexander Street has stopped. But that's not as a result of enforcement as I understand it. I just want the opportunity to clarify that with you.
As I understand it, it's not as a result of any enforcement actions. I haven't seen, panhandling tickets being issued. At least not that I'm aware of. I will make the observation that the rainy, inclement, and cool weather has hit, and we do see a reduction as a result of that.
Right.
Every year, as people move through the community to warmer climates south. We see an influx and then a decrease in that type of activity.
Okay, thanks. And through your worship, and I don't want to draw a line between cause and effect, but maybe there's something to the foot patrols that help. The other thing I've heard from some community members is, and I wonder if you might be able to confirm or deny it, or is that there's been an increase in trespassing, maybe by transients looking for places to hang out until the shelter was open? Have you heard anything like that?
I don't know that there may be an increase in complaints because of the increased awareness and the increased police visibility, and ergo people feel more comfortable in reporting stuff along those lines. I don't know that. I think the reporting might be up,
Okay.
but I don't necessarily know that the instances may be up.
Okay.
They're just reporting them more so that we
Right.
can take some proactive action.
Great, and I look forward to the next report at which time the winter shelter will have been open for a while to see if there's a difference. So thank you for.
There undoubtedly will be.
Yeah,
There
thank you
undoubtedly
for
will
the-
be, yes. We'll see a reduction in the number of those types of complaints.
Well, that preventative lens, I think, has been much appreciated. So through your worship, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh-Richmond. Councillor Flynn?
Thank you, and thank you for your report. And from my point of view, and in an effort to not ask you to spend too much time on reporting, I like this quarterly. I don't need that real detailed one quarterly, but perhaps semi-annually. That I like the fact you've summarized it and kind of given us your feel of the crux of the matter. I think that other one that you say you're going to provide, I don't know that I need that every quarter. I might be unique, but I think this quarterly is great. And having that maybe twice a year would be all I would need.
There was a move, or there has been a move to go to a different style of reporting, more a goals orientation. What we have done to achieve those goals, and then the addition or changing of goals as we move forward. Right. I tried to do some of that with the information that I was providing you, and it didn't seem to tell the picture as well as we can tell it when we're having a discussion and there's questions. I think over the years, council's known what my goals are. I do have a paper that I'll be coming out with in the spring, of course, to get signed off as we do every year or every second year moving forward. The statistics I haven't added to this one, and that's just one page. I have someone that'll run my statistics for me that'll give you a good picture of what's going on or what's going on over that last quarter. But I appreciate the councillor's position on that, Mayor Harrison.
The top of the second page where it says 61% versus 39, and you said traditionally that's been 70-30. Is that the first quarter we've seen it more 60-40? And is that support asking again for that you're asking for it, and I hear it's maybe moved up in the priority. If these stats stay like this, that probably helps your case, correct?
It would certainly do that. They look at a number of different stats when they're doing the analysis to find out how many members that we're going to require. We did see an increase in those rural calls over the last quarter, but that hasn't been the trend at this point in time. And if I start seeing it quarter after quarter, then I can call it a trend, as most people would. We did see a number of calls in the rural area, which were quite substantial. In that we had called an ERT team in, or emergency response team in, on one or two occasions in order to deal with files. One was in the city, one was outside of the city. Every time I make that phone call to a critical incident commander and he deploys an ERT team, the bill is about $17,000 to start. And that's what having a full ERT call out requires of us in overtime. So that's fallen on the provincial side of the house on 2 or 3 occasions here in the last little while. So.
And as the downtown Salmon Arm rep, and we'll be at their board meeting tomorrow morning, I appreciate those foot patrols and the anecdotal evidence that things have gotten a lot better. And then related to Councillor Lindgren's question, I see 3 stolen quads, 1 motorcycle. Did you get my steaks and frozen pizzas and coolers back? My bikes?
Unfortunately, no. I don't believe that we did. I can't positively report on returning your steaks.
You know, and it's funny, I'm joking, and clearly I still wake up at night every time I hear something now and still feel the impact of what it feels like. And I like that you said that it's not as much important about catching somebody and necessarily throwing the book at them, but getting the bike back or returning people to whole. I think you don't realize till it happens to you how it really makes you change how you look at everything.
Well, and that's why, and I appreciate that comment, I really do, because that's why I've always focused on the property crime side of the house and the personal crime. There's only so much that we can do to stem violent crime, but when it comes down to the property crime and working hard to get people's property back to them, and how it really does, as you stated so eloquently, shake their foundation. Because their home is their castle and it is that safe place that they go to, then when I've said to council before that I want to see people safe in their homes and safe in their cars, our serious collisions are down, our break and enters are down just slightly, but I know that I've got a great bunch of officers who have the experience and the commitment to help me carry that off as we move forward, because they're the ones that are out there every night.
Yeah, and on that note, I have started to get to know some of them a little better at hockey games and stuff, and I don't know if they're there keeping an eye on me or if they just happen to be standing where I watch the game, but they're really it seems like you're getting a really good personable group who's involved in the community, and I think the community needs to be happy about that. So
appreciate that. Yeah, we've got I think 3 or 4 hockey coaches now on staff. We've increased the number of referees by 1 or 2 as well. So they're definitely taking part in the community. And if you want to find us on off duty, it's usually going to be at the rink or at someone else's arena. So
good. Thank you,
Councillor Lavery.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott, for the presentation. I just one general comment from our neighborhood, and I think just the importance of RCMP presence goes a long way to calming a neighborhood. And I know that sometimes it might just be an officer doing their paperwork in the middle of the street. But it just, and I know that you know that, but just to recently in our neighborhood, that's is noted and has really positive effects. So thank you for that, for carrying on with that.
I appreciate that.
My question is, has there been any, what is the status, if any, of coordination between the RCMP and on cannabis and the provincial regulators of cannabis? Is that is there a connection there? What's the discussion of how that might roll out?
I think that the relationship will be analogous to the liquor inspector's relationship with the RCMP, where if they're going to be doing something within the community, or if we have an issue or they have an issue, they'll call us, we compare notes, and we can figure out a chart of course going forward to deal with an issue. At this point in time, the licensing is the primary objective, so the enforcement side of the house is I won't say taking a back seat, but isn't at the forefront right now. It's getting the licenses in the right hands of responsible business owners that are going to be able to carry that forward. And then the inspectors will come in afterwards and they'll be doing the inspections as we move forward, because the penalties for not following some of that legislation as a retailer are hefty. And basically they start at $5,000 and they go up to $500,000 for doing stuff that is not right in the eyes of the province, and contravenes their policies and laws as we move forward. So I would envision that will probably become a relationship that will look like a liquor inspector's relationship that we have right now as they move forward with their inspectors.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you, Staff Sergeant. Thanks also to you and your officers and retired officers in Red Surge for the Remembrance Day Parade. Always great to see you out, and that's another proactive, positive way to be in front of the public, so appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
See no other questions? You can head to the rink.
That's exactly where I'm headed, in Sycamoose.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Great, our question and answer period. I know Mr. Newcomb has been very patient in the audience. Thank you, Doug. If you'd like to come forward to the mic with your question, we'll do our best to answer it. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Rick Newcomb. I live in Salmon, have for about 25 years. Just to build on the discussion about bicycles, that's what I want to talk about. And I have been a bicycle rider now for, well, pretty much as long as I can remember. I am currently retired and I have a lot of time to ride. I ride at least every other day, and I enjoy it. I do it for health reasons and just to keep my sanity, I guess you could say. But riding in Salmon Arm is dangerous, and this is what I want to bring your attention to, is the fact that there's very little attention drawn to helping bicycle riders in this city. I think the only two things in the whole city are two signs on Lakeshore Boulevard that say share the road. Other than that, that's it. There's no stencils. Well, there was some stencils on the ground on 11th Avenue Northeast, but those have since faded. Other than that, there's really nothing. And I've talked to many people, both elderly like myself and others, that would love to ride in this city, but they're scared because there's no attention drawn to bicycling. And when there's no attention drawn to it, whether it be stencils on the ground or shoulder lines or signs or whatever, people don't think about it. There's a lot of elderly people in this town, and they, and I speak as an elderly person, they have a focus, and oftentimes they don't even think that don't think about bicyclists. And you know, when you're riding a bike and somebody comes within inches of your handlebar, it's terrifying. I've more than one time have pulled over to the side of the road after somebody went by and shook because it was that close. And I know I'm not alone, and I know that with the advent of electrical bikes, there's more and more people wanting to ride, and more people that are able to ride because they can with these electric bikes. So, but a lot of them have told me, and I say a number of that I've talked to, have said they really are really hesitant to go out on the roads here. And I would really like to see some attention paid to putting in some signs and stencils and whatever it takes to bring people's idea of bicycles, and they're on the road now, and please share the road, to everybody's attention. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Rick. I think it's a good reminder for us. We're coming into a new budget year, and so really appreciate your input. And I think all of us probably would agree with what you've had to say. So perhaps there's something we can do.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to recess until this evening. I just want to say to Chris out there and the public, there is a public open house budget process. Thank you to staff for organizing that in room 100 from 5 to 6:30. Lots of good information there. And then we will resume here at 7 o'clock with public input session to our budget as well as our hearings and statutory hearings. Thank you.
Good job.